In 2024, the Russian army suffered record losses in death and injuries in the war with Ukraine. In December, in particular, more Russian servicemen were killed than in any other month of the war, the UK Ministry of Defence reported on the X network. Russia has suffered more casualties in Ukraine in recent months than at any other time during its illegal invasion, the department said in a statement. At the same time, the Ministry of Defence provided the number of Russian losses for each year of the full-scale invasion. It is noted that in 2022, the Russians lost 105,960 servicemen killed and wounded. In 2023, 252,940. In 2024, 429,660 servicemen. In total, since the beginning of the full-scale war, Russian losses, according to the British Ministry of Defence, have exceeded 790,000. As for 2024, the data shows that since June, the number of Russian casualties has only increased. If in June it was 34,890 killed and wounded, then in December it was 48,670. At present, Russians concentrated their best units to storm Pokrovsk, but in vain. The losses of Russian troops in this area are still many times higher than those of Ukrainian troops, the Commander-in-Chief of Ukrainian Armed Forces, Oleksandr Syrsky, informs. The Russian army is making every effort to take it, and we are doing everything to prevent its capture. Some prophets said that we would lose Pokrovsk on September the 30th. September the 30th passed, and then they said that we would lose it by October the 30th, noted Syrsky. He noted that the invaders were concentrating their best units in this area. Russians can change the troops because they have a greater potential for offensive actions so far, Syrsky emphasized. At the same time, according to the Armed Forces Chief, the enemy's losses are many times higher than those of the Ukrainian army in this area. Pokrovsk is a town in the Donetsk region that has become one of the main points of defense for the Ukrainian armed forces in eastern Ukraine. The Russians are concentrating their forces to break through the Ukrainian defense in this area.
If something were to happen to Putin, Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin will automatically become acting president, and it is quite possible that he will be elected as the new president of Russia, says Russian opposition political strategist Abbas Galyamov. In an interview with Elena Kirik for the YouTube channel Now, the expert said that Putin is not young after all, and rumours about his poor health and refrigerator do not arise out of nowhere. The analyst also gave a characterization of Mishustin. According to him, he is a largely apolitical character, very technocratic, that is, not militarily inclined, like, for example, Patrushev and Sechin. But in the current conditions, in a situation of growing protest sentiments and general confusion of the political class of the Russian Federation, this apoliticality has serious political potential. Galyamov said, "Few will hold Mishustin responsible for the war and for what is happening in the country. In this sense, he has potential. According to the political strategist, Putin is under constant stress because of the unsuccessful war and the shameful collapse of all his plans and hopes. In essence, the creation of a Russian army that would threaten the entire world was the core of his political project. And the fact that this army turned out to be of little use, and the entire world saw this, of course, creates very serious nervous tension. As is known, being under stress for a long time is fraught with serious health problems, although, of course, Putin has all the possibilities of medicine, both domestic and foreign, at his disposal. It is impossible to rule out that something will happen to him. And in this situation, Mishustin has a very strong chance," Galyamov noted. The Russian Prime Minister has a minimal anti-rating, the expert added. No one really likes him except for his closest circle, but at the same time, he has few enemies. And as practice shows, when a dictator leaves, it is precisely the minimal anti-rating that pushes a person to the surface. This was the case, for example, with Khrushchev, who became the leader precisely because he caused the least tension in everybody else. This was the case with Brezhnev after Khrushchev, and Mishustin in this sense may well take off, Galyamov emphasized. Former deputy head of the Security Service of Ukraine, retired Security Service of Ukraine Major General Viktor Yagin, commented on the question of how the FSB has managed to remain an extremely powerful force in the Russian Federation for so long, and what could put an end to its power. The FSB remains in power because it has money. When you have money and the ability to operate it, you can do anything, he emphasized during a chat on Glavred. At the same time, the interlocutor noted that states governed by special services are not viable. They begin to eat themselves from the inside. They need expansion. Otherwise, when there is no expansion, they begin to work internally, and as a result, internal repression begins. Because this monster must be constantly fed, he explained. At the same time, the former deputy head of the SBU believes that the only counterbalance to the special services is the army. In Russia, this army is being grown quite actively now. When Stalin died, the army showed its teeth. Representatives of the special services were shot by army generals led by Zhukov. That's why Zhukov was stopped, because they were afraid that he would take the leading roles. So, Putin played ahead and began to destroy the generals, fearing that they would seize the initiative, Yagin added. Earlier, an unexpected forecast of a riot in the Russian Federation and the overthrow of Putin appeared. The FSB can replace Putin only in one case, Viktor Yagin is sure. What is the difference between a coup d'etat prepared by politicians and a coup d'etat prepared by a special service? A special service envisages several directions of development of events. We remove him, and what next? Who do we put in his place? How will the people, the environment, and the world react to this person? What will the legend about where the predecessor went be? A helicopter crashed? Or he simply burned up in a bunker after work? Or a serious illness, which ended in death 2 weeks later? All said and done, Putin will be buried between Stalin and Lenin, he noted. Let us recall that earlier the general explained what awaits FSB-style Russia. Putin and the FSB remain in power in Russia because they have money. They do whatever they want now. But the FSB has gotten carried away. As reported earlier, the GUR named the goals of disseminating information about the dictator's death. Internal processes and confrontations in the Russian Federation manifest themselves in completely different forms, Andrei Yosov emphasized. Glavred reported.